Hi friends, Astrologer Joe here, and obviously I have to do this update video to show you what is actually going on. I'm going to connect some dots for you. I was tuning into the shooting yesterday and I got some very important information. Like so many of you that are very psychic or intuitive or sensitive or remote viewers, you're all getting very similar information. And it's very important that we understand what's actually happening in the world. Not just run off and, blame others and point fingers and cause chaos, because this is what the powers that shouldn't be want. So I'm going to cover some of the things that are going on to show you what's happening. And I chose this picture and, and I did put some of these pictures up here to show you what some of the changes are that's happening to us in the world today. But unfortunately, from an astrological standpoint, I see the next 2 months being very turbulent, and I will show you some of the astrology on what's coming. And I don't do this to scare you or to be fear-mongering. I give you this information as a heads up so you could prepare yourself psychologically. You understand? This is the beauty of astrology or numerology or remote viewing or tuning into this stuff. And as it happens, we adjust accordingly. We change the timeline. We change the outcome. Unfortunately, as I've been saying for such a long time, a majority of the people on this planet have no clue about who they are or what's going on in the world and how they're being manipulated and controlled, And so I want to dive into this. This is going to be a short video, but of course I talk a lot more about this in my inner circle community. As a matter of fact, this past few weeks, I've been making predictions there that have actually happened, where I say this day here, the energy is off the charts and we could expect a major world event. And I will show you that slide. But before I do that, I have this very powerful message from Mickey Willis. If you don't know who he is, he was the one that did the presentations with Judy Mikovich about the injections in the arm. So let me show you this video right now and listen to it. Listen carefully, because he is one of us, the truth seeker, understanding what's going on. So here you go. Listen to this. It's only about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes long. So listen to this.
If you want to see the light at the end of this very dark tunnel, listen closely. Like you, my heart is filled with sadness and rage. The reactive part of me wants to unleash hell on every radicalized activist out there. But the wiser part of me, the side that understands the vast difference between reacting and responding, reminds me to take a deep breath and to remember. Reacting is exactly what they want us to do. They need us so emotional, so enraged, that we look away from the evidence now emerging. Evidence that exposes their crimes against humanity. Whether it's newly leaked emails proving that Dr. Fauci lied under oath, the bombshell study comparing the unvaccinated to the vaccinated, the long-awaited disclosures from the Epstein files, or the countless other exposés now being dragged into the light, they want us distracted. They want us to dominate the news cycle with hateful rhetoric and physical acts of revenge. Do not take the bait. They are masters of manipulation, practitioners of dark magic, and like any illusionist, they rely on sleight of hand. While one hand dazzles your attention, the other sets the trick. Let's put an end to the illusion by thinking and behaving wisely and strategically, by being one step ahead of those trying hard to lead us into hell, by grounding our minds and our hearts in the unshakable knowing that in the end, the light always defeats the dark. We are entering the Great Purge, when that which is poisonous to the human organism is puked into the sewage where it belongs. In the same way, your body rejects consuming toxins. We are collectively ridding our bodies of the poisonous programming we've been ingesting for decades. This is not the time to break down. This is a moment for us to rise up, consciously, strategically, and wisely. We are on the precipice of historic change. Hold strong. Remain vigilant. Your most effective weapon is your voice. Use it, and use it with care and precision. United, we stand.
As you can see, this was a very powerful message about staying centered, realizing what's happening. Don't go down this darkness that they are trying to bring us into. Okay? And I'm going to explain to you as best I can on this platform of who is doing this, what the connections are. And of course, I'm doing this presentation on September 11th, 2025. This is a very special day. And it's no coincidence that we have another event that occurs the day before this day. Okay? So again, someone knows the timelines, someone knows the energy, and is maximizing it to their benefit. And so this is a very tricky time as we go into this fall. And this month in particular, we haven't seen anything yet. There is much more coming this month, and I've already covered it in my Inner Circle community where I went over the astrology for the month of September. It is pretty intense. Let's just put it that way. Okay? So let's get into this slideshow. And I want to show you what I've been talking about. Okay, so if you guys have been following me, you regulars, I appreciate it. You newbies, catch up. So I talked about how, you know, we're sandwiched in between two eclipses right now. A lunar eclipse that just happened on the 7th, and then we have another one coming up on the 21st of September. When we're sandwiched in between eclipses, it's a very powerful time. It's like a portal. It's like an opening, a doorway where light is coming in and light is escaping. Okay, because remember, everything in this universe is made up of light. Your entire body is made up of light. And so when we have these energies coming in, they affect us physically, psychologically, spiritually, the whole 9 yards. And the powers that shouldn't be know this. And that's why they love to do events between eclipses, around significant new moons, full moons. I mean, they know the astrology because whatever is controlling this planet, whether it's human or non-human, and I've talked about this before, that knows what to do, how to do it, and when to cause chaos, when to open up a positive doorway, when to close a doorway. And this is what we're witnessing right now. And unfortunately, the manipulators on this planet, the physical ones, know all this stuff too. And they do their sick rituals in order to maximize it for their own benefit. Okay? So anyway, we're in that zone. I talked about how we are going to have a very powerful month. Not only do we have the blood moon, lunar eclipse, but this is the timeline that I want you guys to really pay attention to. Between, I would say, the 18th of September through the 25th and 26th, there is going to be another major event, possibly a war, a conflict, or another terrorist attack that's coming. And why do I say that? Because the astrology is indicating a tremendous amount of chaos, if you will. The energy is very strong coming in around this solar eclipse. So again, I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying to give you a heads up so you can prepare psychologically without the fear. You understand? This is how it works. So this is a very important time. Fall equinox is very important. The solar eclipse is very important. But there's more. And I will cover the chart in a minute. But first, this is what I said in my Inner Circle community when I put this video out on Sunday. I said, on Wednesday, we have a very volatile day. And I pointed this out to my community, and this is in the weekly astrology in the Inner Circle, where the moon was opposing Mars. Anytime we have the moon opposing Mars like this, and a square, a loose square to Jupiter right there, creating a T-square, there's going to be a significant event of somehow, some way, some kind of an event. And I said either on Tuesday or Wednesday. Wednesday looks more severe. I said this in my Inner Circle. I quoted it. I put it up here. And so I've given my Inner Circle members, an opportunity to see what I'm talking about. And I already made predictions for the rest of the month. So here is another example of that astrology. In the United States, what have I been saying about communication, information that's coming out? Here's that lunar eclipse. Now, it was at 15 degrees of Pisces. Now, I want you to see something here, friends. It was making an inconjunct to Mars in Libra. Mars represents male energy, and Libra is a zodiac sign, right? The person that got shot, Charlie Kirk, yesterday was a Libra, and he was a male. Interesting, huh, friends? But wait, there's more. The moon was also making an inconjunct to Venus in Leo. Venus is the ruler of Libra and Taurus, okay? So now we're starting to see an indication here just from the symbolism of astrology. And lunar eclipses, especially one in Pisces, is about endings, disappearing, dissolving, even death at sometimes if Pluto is involved, which it was, and I do have an astrology chart on that. We see that this eclipse was so strong, affecting, a male who's a Libra, who is ruled by Venus, and this is the sign of Leo. Charlie Kirk's moon sign was Leo. So when you look at the after these things happen, you could clearly see it more visible than sometimes before it happens. So we see a very strong alignment here to a male figure, somebody, possibly maybe even a female, because Venus represents female, but he was very much the quintessential Libra energy. He was married with children. He loved being married, and so, but my point being is you could see the symbolism here after an event like this occurs. Now, again, lunar eclipses are about endings, and we see it in the United States, and we see it in the country itself. What have I been saying since Jupiter is in Cancer? It's going to affect the United States, and there's a lot of emotion around it because Cancer is associated with emotion. And we're not out of the woods yet, friends. We're going to see more of this nonsense, this kind of nonsense, and maybe even larger conflicts erupting real soon. Again, I don't say that lightly. And I'm not the only astrologer saying this. I'm not the only remote viewer saying this. There's so many others picking up on the same thing, and maybe you are too. And so, leave it in the comments of what you're seeing, what you're sensing. I've got people that contact me in the comments or email me or whatever, and they say, Joe, I've been having these very vivid dreams of what's coming. I'm like, good, because you're tuning into something that we all need to pay attention to, you see? And so, again, if we collectively understand what's happening, we could collectively help narrate ourselves out of this chaos. As Mickey Wallace said, we are in a purging place right now, where we're being revealed to the system and the things that are being, that are controlling us, friends. Do you not see that? It's not about negativity. It's not about right and wrong, right being Republicans and conservatives and liberals. It's about awakening to how we believe in nonsense that is affecting us collectively on this planet. Now, you and I, and many of you listening to me and understand what's happening, or you use your own methods to understand all this stuff, you get it. But it's that 70 to 75% of the population that is clueless. They just want to embrace their religious beliefs. They want to embrace their identities that are artificial. You see? This is why I always say we are spiritual beings having these human experiences. Remember that on a regular basis. It's that simple. Don't add anything else to it. We are the energy in these suits, empowering these suits, So anyway, let me continue. Here we saw, of course, the stabbing in North Carolina. And of course, this individual was basically not all there mentally, with 14 arrests and so on. But I'm not going to get into that. But we saw this past week. We saw, of course, the shooting and the death of Charlie Kirk. These are all things leading up to 9/11. All right. Now, what I got psychically, as soon as it happened, as soon as I heard about it, I said, this is a professional hit. This was a professional. And then when they started showing images like this from 200 yards away, you know how good you have to be to hit somebody in not just the chest, but the neck. And I understand it did hit the chest. He was wearing protection. He was wearing a vest. It hit the Under Armour, and then it shot up into his neck. Okay, that was supposedly what happened. Again, I say supposedly because we can't even tell what the hell is real anymore because of the energies that are changing our reality, our perception of reality. So first of all, this was a professional hit. Now, what I tuned into, this was a military-trained individual who was young. I would say 28, 29 years old is what I picked up on. And he was military-trained, not in our country. Let me repeat that again. He was military trained, but not in our country. He's not from the United States. This is somebody from outside the United States who was militarily trained. And this is what I got when I was tuning into this. This has been planned for about 6 months. They were watching him. They first, basically, trying to figure out who they could take down, who is very well known as a celebrity, who's making head waves in the community. And they decided to choose him, Charlie Kirk, because he was a larger-than-life figure, and he was going to campuses to try and convince the young, that what is really going on, you're being lied to, you're being manipulated. And he was making a difference, okay? But if you understand the powers that shouldn't be, who do they go after? The most vulnerable. And who are the most vulnerable in society? The young. And when I say that, I'm talking about the school kids. As you know, they go after the school kids to condition them to believe that there are many different genders. They're also going after them to confuse them, to cause anger. And they've done this beautifully. For the past 100 years or so, they've destroyed the family on purpose. And this is not me saying this. They've admitted this. They've admitted we first need to destroy the family. Take the destruction, pit people against each other, and then we can control them easier. So the powers that shouldn't be have been attacking the family and the youth for about 100 years. Okay, and now it's evident. So they decided to go after Charlie Kirk because he was going after the youth. Now, that's, competition for the dark ones. So they had to take him out. And they had to cause as much anger and pain as much as possible. Okay, and now there's going to be this backlash where people are going, well, people on the left are psychotic, and people on the right are this, and they love that. They love that. Okay, so this is why Mickey Willis's message is so powerful. Don't start blaming, your opponents. Yes, there are people on the left that are not all there. Okay, because they've been spoon-fed a lot of lies. And then you got the people on the right. And I'm sorry to have to say this to you folks that are religious. You've been fed a bunch of lies as well, having to do with your religions. Okay? This is years of research, friends. And again, I'm only pointing the obvious out to those of us that are actual truth seekers, to see how you're being manipulated through many various different ways. So I got that this was a professional hit from someone around 28 to 29 years old who was trained outside of the United States. And I'm going to give you an idea of who or what country this individual may be associated with, given what I've picked up on. Okay, so here is Charlie Kirk, and you could go to his X account back in September 15th, 2023. He has literally got this video. It should still be up. I hope it's still up. And he basically talks that he is being threatened or there's concern. He starts talking about this time, and I tried to find as many videos as possible, where he is concerned about them going after him, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and this other person, Posio, I don't know who this is, and anyone that has criticized this country right here. Again, I have to be careful what I say. And basically, he thinks that there was going to be this individual here from this country to hunt down these individuals, including him. So he's been talking about this for a while. And when I look at Charlie Kirk's chart, he was a bit of a visionary as well. He's got the Sun conjunct Jupiter. Anytime you have the Sun conjunct Jupiter in the chart, you are a visionary. And so he's talking about this video. So just go to his X account, go there and see if you could find this. Here's the date for it, okay? So he's talking about that. Here is the video, part of the video that I was playing. Here is that individual that literally is, the communication or the video was translated into English, but it clearly states how, they're going to go after him and so on and so forth. So was this the individual that did it? No, I don't think so. But you could see the connections that are being made here into what my spidey senses were picking up on. Okay, so there's one indication that's very strong here. Here now we are starting to see posts online from different commentators and, YouTubers and people on X and so on. Now, I want to point out here, again, I got to be very careful what I say here. Here is Jackson Hinkle talking about how basically Charlie Kirk started talking against this country right here. And he literally said this, and I quote right there. You see, this country was going to kill him. He started mildly criticizing this country. And if you understand what this country is doing, or what has been this country has been doing for the last 100 years or so, and when I say this country, I don't mean the good people that live there that are totally clueless. I'm talking about the leadership. Okay, they're the ones that are part of this universal cabal, and it's not just them. There are people in the Vatican. There are people in big business. There are families that have been hiding behind these so-called Illuminati families. And again, this is all coming out now. And so why do I say this? Because I've known this for years, and I've done the research. I've gone down the rabbit hole. I mean, this stuff goes way back thousands of years. It's not just in the modern day. But we see this country also attacking at the same time that this is going on. This is happening, okay? They attack this country. Now, this country here has been talking about how they want to take over the region of where they are and go into their neighboring countries. Now, you can see why the Arabs are all upset about this, okay? And I'm not saying it's right and wrong, but I'm just showing you the obvious here. So at the same time, and again, I've always said this, friends, when there's a major story that happens, always look to the other stories that are taking place that may be a diversion. All right. So here we see on the same day that this is taking place, we have a shooting, we have this going on. Okay. And here it is. You could Google it yourself if you dare. I would suggest using the Brave web browser because they don't record. But here we see another incident of him, taking place. Now, why is this important? Because the financial system is collapsing around the world, and too many people are waking up to how the system works. So these people here are one faction of the control mechanism that are trying to create as much chaos as possible so they could go run and hide, or they could cause, point fingers and cause chaos. Now, this is where it gets a little controversial. I'm not going to read this, but this is what the truthers know. Okay, we truthers have been researching this for a long time, and this is absolutely indicated. Now, this is very important here, and this is what I'm going to give you some links to. You could go research it for yourself. And this is from James Corbett, one of my favorite truthers and researchers, and he put out a short video. It's about 17 minutes long. It's on his website, and it's on his other sites. So what I want you to do is, and here they are, here are the 5 that were indicated. They were literally arrested by a New Jersey police officer on that day. And you could listen to it in its entirety from James Corbett. Just go to his website. Here it is, right? Here is the actual URL. You could go there. There is the video, okay? This is the one you want to watch. And by the way, he has many, many videos on 9/11. All of them are excellent, very well researched. He connects the dots like no one else. So you will see eye-opening information here. And this is why I say he's one of my favorite researchers, because he gives you the information and where he got it from. Anyway, we also have at the same time, and I'm doing this on 9/11, we also have the House Intelligence Committee beginning to assimilate a commission, a new commission, to try and understand what the hell happened on 2001. So now you have attacks in the Middle East. You have this going on. And I forgot to mention, there's also, what was it, on the 9th, this UAP meeting in Washington as well going on. So you could see the diversions. You could see where things are happening. And all of a sudden, this major diversion happens on, with Charlie Kirk in Utah. So I'm suggesting, again, watch the diversions. Watch what they're trying to do here. We also have at the same time, this was blowing me away here. Poland basically is suggesting that Russia had drones on their country, and they were spying on them. And this is, of course, from InfoWars. And you could Google this and put this title in and get the research and listen to it yourself. But this is showing some conflict as well, where the Poland prime minister is now going to NATO right there to invoke their help in order to go after Russia. So you could see here how this is all aligning to build some sort of chaos or some sort of destruction in the world. And we're already seeing it in Europe. And of course, I've covered this about a year ago, when Tucker Carlson interviewed Putin. basically saying we're being instigated. You know, you're putting troops on our doorsteps. You know, NATO's doing all this. So again, we're seeing this happening at the same time Charlie Kirk is being shot. Once again, something is going on here. Of course, this is not being reported anywhere except on the online platforms, you know, like X and Telegram and some of these other places. We have massive protests taking place around the world, primarily in Europe, but it's also happening in Australia. Okay? So we are seeing people rising up against, you know, these sort of people that don't belong in their countries, let's put it that way. And so we're seeing this going on. So again, the Great Awakening continues, friends. And the powers that shouldn't be are going to cause as much chaos as possible. You know, this is like we see a train wreck ahead and we're going into it. That's what's happening right now. And the astrology indicates, at least for the next, I would say 4 months or so, 5 months. 2026 is a new time. I could promise you that. But these next few months from this date, looks pretty chaotic. Okay, so I'm giving you a heads up. Now let's get into the astrology and why I am saying that the September time frame from the 18th through the 24th, we need to pay extra attention, friends. And this has a lot to do with Mars entering Scorpio. Now, Mars in astrology and in symbolism in the mythology has to do with war. It has to do with conflict. It has to do with fighting and you know, destroying and just being combative. Okay? Scorpio, which is ruled by Pluto, is associated with the underworld, darkness, killing, death, and rebirth. Do you see what happens when Mars enters Scorpio? And we astrologers all know this. And this is just, you know, very simplistic stuff. Mars entering Scorpio makes us much more feistier. It brings out more of the intensity level. You know, it's all or nothing mindset when Mars enters Scorpio. Now, why is this important? Okay, so I'm just suggesting that the energy level is going to go up at this time. Because on the 24th or leading up to the 24th, Mars will square Pluto, which is the ruler of Scorpio. Now, I want you to see this, friends, from just a simplistic standpoint here. We have Mars that just enters Scorpio right there, which is bad enough as it is because the intensity level goes up. But Mars, you know, and Scorpio energy is ruled by Pluto right here. And it's at 1 degree. This is an exact square in astrology. A square is intense energy. It is challenging. It is disruptive. But notice there's a lot more going on this day. We have the transiting moon also at 1 degree of Mars. This is in the morning, and I use New York as the Eastern time zone. It is exactly in the morning. Then it is also making an inconjunct to Uranus, which is the wild card. Sudden change, sudden awareness, sudden, you know, destruction. It's like lightning striking. We have an inconjunct going on to Uranus at the same time that Mars is squaring the moon and Pluto. Okay? It's a very tumultuous energy that's coming in, friends. But there's more. It's also making an alignment loosely, even though it's close, it's only 1 degree, to Neptune right there. So we're seeing this powerful energy coming in. So I'm expecting another major event to take place. A war, a conflict, another death. Because remember, Scorpio rules death. We could see military movement. Now, this could be in Chicago. This could be in Europe. This could, I mean, it's going to happen in multiple locations. But these energies, as they are coming in, this is why I said the 18th, the 19th, the 20th, the 21st, we have the solar eclipse happening. Then we have the equinox, and then we have this alignment. It is such a powerful time, friends. And I'm giving you a heads up. Prepare mentally, emotionally, psychologically. Something happens. You know, I mean, obviously we're going to react to it. Even I reacted yesterday to Charlie Kirk, you know, feeling really sad because, you know, I knew this was another incident where they were going to cause a lot of pain and suffering in the world. So after that, you get back to center and you go, all right, I understand what's happening. I need to deal with this and I will do my best. So here we see, as an astrologer, and I've already, you know, mentioned this to my inner circle community, that we need to prepare around this time because there's another major event coming. And so we are not out of the woods in September. It is very tumultuous energy. And this also spills into the beginning of October when we have a full moon in Aries. So I'm expecting military movement. I'm expecting police movement, maybe the ICE movements in Chicago, maybe more disrupt, because the average person is just feeling this energy and they're reacting to it. Okay? And so this is very important to understand. So this is why I'm saying rough roads ahead. I'm not saying to be a doom and gloomer. I'm not saying this to be negative. Okay? We have to go through this process. I've said this before. There's no easy way through this. There's no easy way through this timeline. Okay? And so we just have to do the best we can and sort of, adjust accordingly. And that's my message to you, is adjust accordingly as we get through this. And don't blame other people. Yes, there are psychotic people in the world. Yes, there are people being used to cause chaos and anger and fear. But you do the best you can. Protect your friends and family, the ones closest to you, and try and stay out of the fear mode. Okay, that's my suggestion to you. Anyway, for those of you interested, again, I talk a lot more freely in my Inner Circle community. Please consider joining. There's a 7-day free trial. Every Sunday we are on a Zoom call. Members get to interact with me. They send me charts and I answer a few questions for them. But there I could absolutely talk a lot more freely. So consider joining. Especially if you get the 1-year membership, it's a lot cheaper. But always remember, friends, we are spiritual energy beings in these physical containers having a human experience. It doesn't matter what you look like, what your gender is. It is your spirit, your energy, okay? The Christos in you that is more important. Do you understand? So the people that are causing the chaos are unfortunately very ignorant and they're being used. But if you remember this, that you are a spiritual energy being in this physical suit, believe me when I tell you, it will transform your worldview. It will transform the way you look at other people. So this is why I always say this, and I know this in my heart and soul. And so this is very important, and this is the message I try to get across to everybody. Anyway, do the best you can, friends. Stay vigilant. Stay out of fear. And I will talk to you guys soon. All right? Bye for now.